Hello, my name is Giles. Welcome. And this is my little Yoda collection.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another edition of Star Wars Collections and Displays. I'm Jack, and with me today, as always, we have Jim. We have a very special collector here today. His name is Giles, a soft G, Giles. Giles, if you can, take a moment, introduce yourself. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your collection.
Yeah, my name is Giles, and I live in London, United Kingdom. And I'm a big collector of Star Wars figures, but in the main, Yoda. He is my main man, so to speak.
You seek Yoda.
I do.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump into it then. The collections that you have, what kind of items are they? Are they action figures, vehicles, helmets, lightsabers, comics, Yodas?
Yeah, lots of Yodas. Yeah. In the main, they are action figures. But when it comes to Yoda, anything that I can get my hands on that's Yoda, really. So if it's, I mean, I've got a Yoda rucksack, which I sometimes go out in the day with, and that's wonderful because it's amazing the reaction you get from people of all ages wearing one of those. But you know, a Yoda pen or a Yoda pad, notepad, you know, anything that's Yoda. But in the main, it's action figures. Yeah.
Fantastic. And is there a particular scale or size that you seek out, or is it the whole wide range?
No, well, the first Yoda that cut it out for me really was this little fella here, which is the one that I got when Empire Strikes Back came out. He's still in marvelous condition, and for 99p. I don't know what that is, and that's probably like I don't know, 50 cents or something. Well, yeah, something like that. And so that scale, the 3.75-inch figure range, is my favorite. But I collect all the ranges, you know. So whether it's 12-inch or 6-inch or whatever. Yeah.
Now, Yoda tends to appear in almost all of the various stories, movies, or episodes. Is there a particular series or story or one particular movie that you really enjoy?
Yeah, for me, it has to be The Empire Strikes Back because, I was at that age when it was complete magic, and of course, it was pre-internet and everything, so we had no idea who Yoda was. You didn't know that Yoda was Yoda until he declared that he was Yoda, and so that magic and the fact that it's the puppetry, Frank Oz doing an amazing job, and you can't beat that for me. That's and it's probably the best film out of all of them anyway.
I remember watching that movie and sitting in the movie theater, and when Yoda came out and the first time he spoke, I kind of chuckled, and I was really the only one in the theater who chuckled. And the reason I chuckled was that was Fonzie the Bear.
That's right. You're so right, because I'm not going to do it now because I'll blush and mess it up. But I used to do a joke when I used to do stand-up comedy where I would do Fozzie Bear into Miss Piggy into Yoda, because of course Frank Oz did all the voices.
Right.
So they're the same.
Yeah, and I just wasn't, not only not expecting the little tiny character in there, but wasn't expecting that voice either. I guess I wasn't prepared for it. And when he began to speak, like I said, I was kind of embarrassed, but I think the only one in the theater who kind of chuckled because I thought Fonzie the Bear.
Yeah, definitely.
With all the items that you have, and let's just condense it at the moment to just Yoda.
Yeah.
How many Yoda figures do you think you have?
I lost count at about 150. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So what it's at now, I don't know, because the last time I counted them was about 5 years ago, I think.
And the balance of your collection consists of what?
Of Yoda, you mean?
No, aside from the Yoda, the balance of your collection consists of what?
Oh, I haven't a clue really.
So it
No.
is a big focus on Yoda.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because the thing was, it was when I got to sort of the age of a teenager, and I sort of started thinking very reluctantly, oh, I've got to grow out of Star Wars. I can't be into collecting the figures anymore and playing with them and stuff. But I wanted to keep collecting something. And I thought, well, why not Yoda? Because he's 900 years old. He's small. He's green. He's got pointy ears. He's wise, perfect. Um, so that's where it started, really. I just thought, well, I'll carry on getting Yodas. And what's funny is that, I mean, my sisters, when I bought this little Yoda for 99p, they said 99p for a little lump of green plastic. What a waste of money. Of course, we know what an investment he is now, but also my sisters now every year at Christmas and birthday will buy me something Yoda related.
They know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So they encourage my my drive to have him, really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Giles, there's a ton of things out there that you can collect. I understand Star Wars is a big pop culture type of IP that people do want to collect, Yoda in particular. But what is it for you why Star Wars? Why did you decide Star Wars, Yoda, this is what I'm going to collect?
Well, when I was a little kid, Star Wars was a massive escape for me. It wasn't just a film. We all know it revolutionized cinema, really, and it was all I was into. I lived and breathed it, and I played with figures and made worlds up and characters up and everything. And so it's a safe place. It's somewhere where I feel safe and I can just stream and be an 8-year-old kid again, basically, that never wanted to grow up. And also because I'm a big reader in philosophy and particularly Eastern philosophies and stuff. And of course, a lot of what Yoda says is Confucius and people like that. And so, that appealed to me, that the spirituality, so to speak, without getting too heavy, of Yoda and the Star Wars mythology.
Interesting. And aside from escaping reality and going into a comfortable world, what would be your motivation for collecting Star Wars figures, or in this case, Yoda? Is it investment purposes? Is it the look? Is it the enjoyment? As you mentioned, maybe it's just an escape.
Yeah, it's very much an enjoyment. I also I see my collection of figures, not just the Yodas, but all the other things that I have, as exercises in mindfulness, because what I do, I'm constantly rearranging them on a bookcase or a shelf or whatever, and I'm not thinking about what was stressing me an hour ago. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm just there in the moment, focusing on the task. It's like gardening, or the Zen sand gardens, something like that. It's just very calming.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, definitely. Which may sound strange to people, but that it is that. And also because I'm a writer and I'm often sat at my desk and I look up at the bookcase and I see my little figures there, and it's kind of like a view through a window that I've created that I can kind of let my thoughts float upon until I find ideas and inspiration.
Interesting. And with all of the various Yoda figures that you have, of which most of them have appeared to be either out of the box or loose, as we'll call it, do you have anything that is quote unquote graded?
No. For me, it's like when I used to DJ. I loved vinyl because it's the tactile thing. You're touching it, and there's a communication there, and it's the same with my with any figures that I get. So no, I straight away rip open that packaging and just look at it and turn it round and and just turn its head or whatever, and that's it, definitely.
Interesting. You know, are there any items that you've bought that you did keep it in the box because maybe the box art you enjoy or something like that, and it's still, you know, not opened?
No.
You open it all?
No, just for me, it's just yeah. I'm a big collector of things. I have things like I have my father's ruler when he was at school, which is now 90 years old, you know, and various objects. And I like the fact that they've been touched by people and passed through history and all that, you know. Whereas if they're pristine behind a box, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it loses that for me, you know. I want the tactile connection.
And the importance of the items that you're collecting. For me, it was just to acquire a number of figures to fill the shelves, fill the rooms. For you, what is the reason for collecting the actual items?
I think with Yoda, it's really because it's become a thing over the years that's kind of grown and grown. And so I have, obviously, when it comes to figures and things, I have a very hard job in finding one that I haven't got already. So that hunt to find, you know, or if a new one gets released or whatever, then the excitement is there. And then the presentation thereof. I mean, my one of my sisters gave me a hand knitted one last year, and my other sister gave me one that's made out of glass pebbles from the beach where we grew up. And you know, so spectacular, you know, a Yoda that you wouldn't expect. So it's just acquiring them all, and again, because of the wisdom that Yoda speaks. And I suppose if there was any monetary sense in it, I always think, well, they'll, you know, one day when I'm long gone, they'll go to my great nephews, and then they can do what they will with them. So yeah.
Now, you had mentioned you were 8 years old when you first saw Star Wars, and I'm going to assume that was episode 4, The New Hope, the first one that came out in 77, 78. So you've been collecting since then?
Yeah. My very first figure was Greedo, who's actually just over there in a box. He's still in mint condition, my Greedo figure, and he was the only one that I had for a long time. And then my sister brought me a cloud car and a Tauntaun for Christmas when Empire Strikes Back came out, and then the collection just started growing and growing and growing.
Interesting. Now, also correct me if I'm wrong, Jack. Did Yoda not appear until the second movie? He was not in the first one.
Right.
No.
Okay. So you would have gone through the experience of what's now referred to as The New Hope, the original movie, not exposed to Yoda or aware of Yoda at all. And so that would then answer why you had, say, a few of the other regular, we'll call Star Wars items before you actually got into Yoda.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it sounds a bit over dramatic, but when I saw Yoda and Empire Strikes Back, it really did just blow my mind. I just thought, this is the perfect cinema creation of a creature or a being that I would love, you know. So and also, you know, because Empire Strikes Back, you know, it's darker, and you know, and it sets up all these questions. I mean, I remember, as I'm sure you chaps do, like when Empire Strikes Back came out, and then we spent those next few years going, is Darth Vader lying about being the father of Luke? You know, is it Boba Fett who was the father of Luke? You know, all those things, because it was pre-internet, so there was no idea, you know. So yeah.
Interesting. Now, your actual collection and how it's displayed, describe that to us.
Yeah, well, I love old furniture. So as I always say, people don't like brown furniture anymore. they get a lot of things from IKEA and stuff like that. But I love antique desks and antique bureaus and antique bookcases. So that's where most of my stuff is displayed, is on bookshelves of various hues of brown. They're not lit or anything. I mean, I would like lighting, but then I wouldn't install lighting into the furniture, because of course then it's, you know, it's not really, doesn't really match with the furniture. But it's fine anyway, because I'm forever opening the doors and taking them out and looking at them, so I don't need a light really.
And that display of those items, how much of the room or the wall does it consume?
Well, I've got I have a little, I live in a fairly small flat, and decent enough, but it's so I have a little hallway, which is between the sort of the sitting room and the bedroom, and there's quite a bit down the hallway. That's where the main Yoda cabinet is, so to speak, and a bookcase opposite with various other little figures in. But to say that I keep it contained to the hallway, I can't say that, no. Yoda bleeds more or less everywhere, leaks into the sitting room and into the bookcases there, and on various surfaces popping up somewhere.
It's interesting that you mentioned it spills into this room and spills into that room. We just did an interview last night with a young fellow from Texas, and he made reference to one of his either previous wives or girlfriends, one of the two, had him contained just to one room. He could not spill beyond that. It was just in one room, whereas a lot of the other people that we spoke to say that they eventually, either the Star Wars figures kind of escape from the room, to slowly get moved around the house and such.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always say, you know, when I sell a bestseller book and I'm able to buy my big mansion in the country, and I can have a enormous study, you know, with shelves, that it can all be contained in there, that's fine. But I haven't got a big study at the moment, so all has to go everywhere.
And the items that are on display are in cabinets, so they're kind of shelved, or are they pinned to the wall, or are they suspended from the ceiling?
No, it's all shelves, because I continuously rearrange. As it, you know, when I said earlier, they're like views from a window, so it's almost like, you know, well, that was the look for the summer, and now we're coming to the autumn. And you know, and I've just started doing my little Christmas displays. So you know, they sort of change and revolve like the seasons.
And you mentioned brown furniture. You also mentioned the word IKEA, which that name comes up every time we ask somebody about their display mechanism. So IKEA is certainly a foundation item or supplier for a lot of cabinetry or shelving that people use to display.
Yeah, they're I mean, they're great. I look at a lot of their cabinets and think they'd be perfect. You know, I like the ones that are full glass, and so it's revolving around slowly, so you can see them all. But A, I don't have the room, and B, they would look odd with the furniture that I have. You know, some of the furniture I have is inherited stuff, and it would look odd. But I always envy people who have the white and the glass and the brilliant lighting and everything. It's just I don't have the space for it, really.
We did an interview about a month ago with a fellow from Michigan, Londo, and he had what I believe would be a Timex watch carousel in the middle of the room that rotated, and he had a number of his figures inside there, which was kind of an interesting use or way to display things. You touched on lighting a moment ago and said that you really didn't have any particular lighting set up to illuminate or enhance the figures.
No, I don't. It's again, it's just, it would be difficult in installing it into the furniture, and yeah, it's fine. It sort of works for me as it is. The only illumination that I have is I have a lovely Yoda lamp, which I have a color changing bulb on, so that gently goes and changes color around Yoda. But none of the cabinets are lit. No.
And the various items that are on display, how are they arranged? By age, by episode? by character? Obviously, in this case, it's all Yoda, or is it by scene, movie?
There's no real sort of design to it, really. It's I'm a rather chaotic person, so it's probably just pretty chaotic. You know, I'd literally just place one, and then I go, yeah, that one's going to fit in just there, and then so that's how it goes, really. So there's no, other than that, there's no methodology to it at all. It's just just what what fits in where, and sometimes you fit one in, and it's like a jigsaw, really, because it's like you just fitted it in, and you realize, oh no, I've left that one out, and then I've got to fit that one in, and then you have to move them all around again. So it's a bit like that.
Yeah, I know you talked about some of your display areas that you have there, Giles. Do you have room to grow? Can you expand if you need to expand?
I would say I have room to expand. My partner would probably say I don't have any room to expand whatsoever. But I don't see my my collecting Yoda to ever come to an end, really. So I'll just have to make do. I keep saying you wait till I get the full size one.
And with Yoda, that isn't that big, though.
No, yeah, true.
Still 2.5 feet, but yeah, that would be awesome. And when you do decide to get this full-size Yoda or any collectible in the future, where are some of your sources? Where do you go to shop?
My main source is eBay, actually. I mean, eBay's great because you just sometimes you can get things, and they're sort of expensive. I'm not a rich man, so I don't spend a lot of money on them. I have some very good ones that I've managed to get hold of at a bargain price, and that's what's great about eBay, really, because it's like I could bid on a Yoda, and it might be that week nobody else is looking for a Yoda, and so I don't have any competition. So yeah, that's my main source, unless it's a new figure that's been released, and then obviously I'll get that through Forbidden Planet or somewhere like that.
Cool.
I'm curious, with regards to eBay and buying items, are a number of those items coming from the US or are they in the UK? And depending upon where they come from, obviously there's a difference in the shipping cost to get it to you.
Yeah. I've bought a couple of things through eBay in the US, but not many, primarily because the postage and packaging, and then the shipping, and then the tax, it just makes it quite an extortionate price, even if it wasn't a particularly expensive piece. And that's always really annoying because like the Hallmark Star Wars releases don't very often get released over here. So I'll see things and I'll go, oh yeah, but I can't get it, because it's just not available in the UK. So most of it is through eBay UK, generally speaking.
Interesting. And do anything you buy, say, Facebook Marketplace?
I've got a couple of things off Facebook Marketplace, but not generally. But yeah, I think there's two that I brought through there. Yeah.
And what about local yard sales, garage sales?
Oh yeah.
Or what about local toy stores?
Yeah, toy stores not very often, because usually when I go to a toy store, if I find anything Yoda related, it's a current release. I'll go onto the internet and I'll find it cheaper, via a internet trader. I love charity shops. I scour charity shops for hours. I get quite excited by a charity shop. So and it's not very often you catch a Yoda, but if you do, I got one the other month, and it's a money box figure of Yoda, and it was £3, and I was very happy with that purchase.
Interesting. I'd like to ask a few questions based on some of the videos that you sent to me. You did mention the crocheted or the knitted Yoda. You mentioned a pewter Yoda.
Yeah, that's that was a Christmas gift to me about 10 years ago. It's actually it's got a cork inside, so it's actually to put on top of a wine bottle or a port bottle or something. But it's quite heavy, you know. It's about that big, and yeah, lovely pewter Yoda. I love that one.
One of the things that I enjoy the most about this series is what I refer to as memory lane. People reminisce, they go back to a time, a simpler time, maybe certainly a younger time, and they can remember who gave them their first item or the relationship that they had with that person. You did make a reference to a longtime friend, Kirsty, from primary school.
That's right. Yeah, we're friends on Facebook, and so we've known each other since we were 6 years old. We've not seen each other as people, you know, in the flesh, since we were probably about 15 years old. But I grew up in a small seaside town in Yorkshire, so and that's where we grew up. And she, over the years, we've sent the odd message to each other, not very often, but just, you know, how are you, and hope life is well, and da 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 da. And she just sent me a message out of the blue last year, and saying, "Could I have your address, please? I've got a little something for you." And she sent it, and she'd crocheted this Yoda for me, because I'm known as Yoda Man to everybody. So I thought that was so sweet. You know, we've not seen each other for 40 years, and it just adorable, really adorable.
Fantastic. And you parents or brothers or sisters, any memories there with the collection?
Yeah, my sisters all bought me Yoda things over the years, and even they say, "Oh, it's getting hard now because we know you've got everything." So now they're looking to people who have handmade things. As I said, I've got the one made out of the glass from the beach where I grew up. You know, glass that's been found, and this lady has made it into a Yoda plaque thing. And going with what you're saying about that connection as well, I have a drawer of surplus Yodas, if you could have surplus Yodas, but Yodas that I've got versions of already, so copies of thereof. And a tradition that I started a few years ago, so when a friend comes to visit, comes for dinner, when they leave, I give them a Yoda to take home with them as, you know, like a little Buddha to put on their bookshelf or something, and welcome in good thoughts and good vibes and good feelings. So so I gift Yoda out as well.
You're kind of a Johnny Appleseed, gonna start a new crop of Yodas somewhere else.
Yeah, that's it. You know, get people encouraged to love Yoda. Yeah.
Now, you had also mentioned that you were getting prepared for Christmas and that you have some Christmas Yodas.
Yeah, I do. I have about, I think I've got about 7 now. My favorite one is the one that's in the 3.75-inch range, and he's dressed, you know, as Father Christmas, Santa Claus. And then, and all the others the same. He's in the red and white livery, rather. So yeah, I've got a few of those. So some sit in the cupboard in the cabinet with the other Yodas all year, but then I have some that only come out at Christmas because I get really excited about pulling them out and going, "Yay, it's time."
You know, a quick plug before we go on here. I actually host another YouTube channel called JAK in the Box. And ironically, just this morning, or I guess your afternoon, I released a new episode, and it's centered on Yoda.
Wow.
I had a box of Yodas that I found, and I opened them, and I kind of displayed each one to the audience. and that was just came out this morning. If you don't mind, I'll email that episode to you so you can take a look at that. And for our audience out there, I'll also leave a link to that episode in the description so you can click on that link and watch the Yoda video.
Fantastic.
Kind of jump on Jack's Jack in the Box series and segue it back to you being in London. That is where a lot of the Star Wars was filmed. I'm trying to remember the name of the studio.
Elm Street Studios.
Yes. And so I'm curious, as you grew up, were you aware of those studios? Were you aware of the people who had filmed stuff there, and maybe even know some of the actors there?
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I knew of Elstree Studios because, as I said, as a child, I lived, breathed, and ate Star Wars. So I was a member of the Star Wars fan club and got my Bantha tracks every month, and you know, so I knew all about Elstree Studios, and I was very big into film in general, so buy any of the film magazines and liked looking at all the sets and the costumes and the special effects and that, for you know, but I'm just trying to think. Yes, there is one member of the Star Wars cast that I've got to know. I mean, not personally friends, but I used to work in a members club. It was a dining club, and one of our regular members was Anthony Daniels.
Okay.
And he used to come in, and lovely man, lovely. And one of the things that I loved about Anthony Daniels was Anthony Daniels just loves being C-3PO. So he, you know, he would talk, and he sounds a bit like C-3PO even when he's talking normally. And sometimes people would be guests at a dinner table, and they'd call me over and they'd go, Giles, is that Anthony Daniels, C-3PO? And I'd go, oh, yeah, it is. And I'd go, oh, wow. And then I would tell Anthony, and he'd go over to the table, and he'd be very friendly with them and go, ah. And then he would start telling very naughty jokes in a C-3PO voice, and he would leave answer phone messages for them on their phones. So when their friends rang, it was C-3PO answering. He was just great, brilliant.
That's funny. I do aquarium service, and one of my past customers was a lady by the name of Nancy Cartwright, and you might recognize her name as the voice of Bart Simpson. And like you mentioned with Anthony, when they get to talking, it sounds just like the character. Yeah. And I remember a few times we would be talking aquarium related stuff, and some funny thing would come along, and she'd do that Bart Simpson laugh, kind of however he laughed like that, and it just came out like that, and it was just normal for him. So it's kind of interesting how their characters kind of part of them. To go back to Jack's Jack in the Box series, and again to tie it in with you in England, what Jack does is he has the ability to have bought a bunch of stuff years ago, and basically the premise is now he's taking those boxes out of the garage, opening them up, and then just displaying them or sharing them with us as he does so. But he also does an occasional interview. And two of the interviews that I can recall are both with English actors who were in the original Star Wars. And I'll let him tell you about the two that I'm kind of thinking of at the moment.
Yeah, that is another little thing that I do on Jack in the Box. I find these actors, a lot of them are just background actors. They didn't have lines in the movie or anything like that, but they were on the set and they share their stories. I think the two that Jim is referring to, there was a gentleman named Laurie Good and another gentleman named Mark Kirby. Mark Kirby actually played one of the rebel soldiers that's at the very beginning of A New Hope, where he's in, you know, the corridor when the stormtroopers come in, and he's one of the guys shooting at them. The other, Laurie Good, is actually played a stormtrooper amongst numerous characters in A New Hope, but he's a stormtrooper. I don't know if you know, but one of the guys is walking through a door and he bangs his head on the side of the door. And I've got that actor. We talk about how he banged his head and everything that's happened to him since then.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, what I love is like, with the newer films was, you have people, very successful actors in their own right already, clamoring for a guest appearance, just to play a stormtrooper, a TIE fighter pilot. They don't want any credit or anything. They don't want to be paid. They just want to be in the film, definitely.
Daniel Craig is a great example of that. He played a stormtrooper in The Force Awakens.
Oh, right. I didn't know that, actually.
Did not know that. Wow.
No.
James Bond. Wow.
James Bond played a stormtrooper.
So, Giles, who is the collector in your family or household?
Aside from me, I got it from my father, who was a vicar, a priest, country vicar, and a writer himself, and that's where I get my love of writing from. And he collected things on a sort of, I suppose, the closest link, or closest vein similar to Star Wars would be Hornby train sets. He had a lot of train sets, the ones that have a little electric box and they go around and under villages and all kinds of things. That and pens. He collected pens. I have a lot of fountain pens of his still.
How coincidental. The guy in Texas we just spoke of last night, what was it? His father, wasn't it, that he collected, or no, it was his uncle.
His uncle
collected fountain pens.
Right, yeah. I'm very rare. I'm one of the few people, I think, that still writes with a fountain pen, and I don't get cartridges. I still fill the ink from the inkwell and draw it up into the pen, and I love the sound of it on the paper, and there's just something very nice about it, very lovely. Yeah.
And aside from the people in your family or in your household, who sees your collection?
Friends who come and visit, and people on Facebook. I'm always posting up usually the same picture, but just because anything I can think of to mention Yoda, and I will. So, but yeah, it's usually people who come round, and there's always a double wow when they're in the hall, because aside from collecting Yoda, I'm also and Star Wars, I am a big Doctor Who fan as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Doctor Who, and I collect Daleks. I don't know if you know what the Daleks are, but Daleks they're mutants that are inside little personal tanks, so to speak, and they're the most they're the worst species in the whole of the universe. They're deadly, and I have about 70 of those. So they'll go down the hallway and they'll go, and then they'll look the other side and go, So it's Daleks or Yodas win the race.
Interesting. And here's what I call the honesty question. With regards to your passion for collecting, would you consider yourself obsessive, compulsive, budgeted, under control, or out of control?
I'm not out of control. My partner would argue that, probably, but no. I think it's probably to be honest, it's probably borders on compulsive to obsessive. I suppose. If it's a Yoda, then that's it. If it's a Yoda that I haven't got, I'll do whatever. I'll move heaven and earth to get that Yoda, as long as it's not too expensive.
That sounds like compulsion.
Yeah. Okay. That's me.
Interesting. And I was just going to say, who actually, when they'd see the collection, what did they say about the collection? What's the response?
Oh, well, it's always been a favorable response, because what's lovely as well is that people might not have ever seen a single Star Wars film, but they know who Yoda is. There's two people really that, people, for want of a better word, that everybody recognizes, and that's Darth Vader and Yoda. So as I say, I had numerous lady friends come and visit over the years, and they've never seen a Star Wars film, and they turn and they see them in the case, and they go, "Oh, Yoda!" And it's a lovely reaction, and which is why it's always nice to gift people a little Yoda when they leave, because they're quite happy that they've got one. It's not as if they're going, "Darth Vader, what am I going to do with him?" But Yoda, they seem quite pleased with him. So yeah.
Good point. Good point. And also, for today's generation, they know who Yoda is, but they also know who this baby Yoda is. We call him Grogu now. Did you get into Grogu or baby Yoda items?
That was a bone of contention with me for a while. I accept Grogu now, and I might have 2 or 3 perhaps somewhere. But I was incensed when he was called Baby Yoda, because of course we know that he wasn't Baby Yoda, and also because it really bugged up my search on eBay for Yodas, because I put in Yoda and it'd be Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda, baby, and instead of letting me get to the Yodas that I needed to find. So yeah, that used to really bug me, but not so much now. I've softened to him a bit, I suppose.
Gotcha.
Good, so good. That might in a Yoda voice be Thunder, he's stealing.
Yeah. Totally. But I have a oh, hang on, let me just reach up and get this. Look. Sure. So I caved in a bit. Just bear with me 1 second. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh wow, okay.
That kind of solves the issue right there.
Yeah. So but I love that, because it's it's the teacher and the pupil. So yeah, that's quite sweet.
Nice piece.
Yeah. eBay.
Giles, do you have what we would call like a favorite piece or a favorite item out of the collection?
Yeah, I do actually. It's just here. This one, it's Yoda from the Sideshow collectibles, right. But a chap sold it on eBay, and he'd hand painted it. So he's a different green from what the Sideshow collectible Yodas are, and he's got his real hair. Well, what little there is of it on the top. So that's my favorite one, just simply because it looks very lifelike and it's unique, because
it's custom the way he painted it.
Yeah, and dirtied all his robes and everything. So that's my favorite one.
That's a beautiful piece. Nice.
Yeah.
And then what about, you talked about you were 8 years old when A New Hope came out. You've seen Empire Strikes Back. You've probably watched some of these other more recent Star Wars movies. Do you have a favorite movie or Star Wars show at this point?
Not really. It's literally, when I sit down to watch them, I revert to being 8-year-old me again. So, I suspend my disbelief. Yes, sometimes I can follow the arguments that are going on the internet about how that couldn't happen or this couldn't happen or whatever. But in the main, I just go with the flow, and it's Star Wars, so I'm happy, and it's I mean, I like a lot of science fiction and fantasy and those kinds of things anyway, but particularly Star Wars, and it's all part of the building on the universe, or the galaxy rather, that it is. So the more the better, really.
Yeah. Well, and I guess for the Ahsoka show, they actually went to a different galaxy. So I think you're okay to say building on the universe at this point.
Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely.
Totally. And I can't wait for the next film or series to come out. Yeah.
I don't even know if they've announced the next one. There's something called the Acolyte, I think, but I don't know if there's a date for that quite yet. Yeah.
But as much as I love Yoda, I hope they never do a Yoda origin film, because I think Yoda should have that sense of mystery. I don't think we should know about his home planet and where he comes from and his parents and his 900 years, and I think he should be shrouded in mystery. You know, as George Lucas has always wanted it anyway. He's always said, you know, he's supposed to be mysterious, and so I hope that stays really.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my final questions, but before I even go into that, hang on just a quick second because we'll edit this part out. The phone's ringing. That should be the last one. So with some of the video that you sent us, you have also a hand puppet Yoda.
Yeah, that's he's from came out around the same time as the little figure. So it'd be 1981. You can't really move him that much because he's quite solid plastic, really. You can just sort of rest his head on his hands. But yeah, I've still got him, which is great. I'm hoping one day to have enough money to get a full-size hand puppet Yoda, and that would be great.
And there was also a Yoda on a tauntaun.
Yeah, because Tauntaun's my favorite creature from Star Wars, and so basically I got one, and one of my Yoda figures where he sat down with his cape billowing behind him, and I thought, well, that would look great with Yoda stuck on the top. So I've stuck my Yoda on the top, and just because we don't see it in the films doesn't mean that Yoda never rode a Tauntaun. Right.
And then there was something else that you mentioned that caught my attention. Yaddle, the female version of a Yoda.
Yeah, Yaddle. Yeah, she's the female version thereof. I think she was a mere 700 years old, I believe, and she's on the Jedi High Council. And yeah, so I have a Yaddle as well. But we didn't see much of her, but she did pop up.
Right. Yaddle's first appearance is in The Phantom Menace, when they first kind of introduced the Jedi Council with Mace Windu. She's one of the people that's on the council.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah.
And then you also had a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil Yodas.
Yeah, that's right. I love those. They're 3 sideshow collectible Yodas again, like this fella here. And I just arranged them in the line, so one's covering his mouth, another eyes, and another ears. So they're great. Sometimes I take them out of the cabinet and I just have them sitting in their own right somewhere.
I have a very memorable picture of me, my brother, and my grandpa sitting there doing that. So when you had mentioned that in the video, I thought of that. You've also mentioned the sideshow Yoda, which I think you just showed us there a moment ago. I would like to kind of conclude my second to the last question, although I think we already know what the answer is, and that is, who is your favorite character?
Yoda. Yeah.
And then lastly, my final question is, as a collector, giving advice to other potential collectors or current collectors, what advice might you pass along to them?
My thing would be find the joy. It's yes, it's great if you have a collection that's financial investment, if it's worth something. And of course, I think collecting something like Star Wars or something similar in that line is always going to be a good investment because it continually grows and gathers new fans. So there's always going to be people hungry for it, But at the end of the day, it's the joy, the joy of simply looking at them and connecting with them, whether it's connecting you back to your childhood or whatever it is. I don't know really, but my sister said to me a couple of years ago, she said, don't let anybody ever say that you shouldn't collect them because they bring you a lot of joy, and that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah. Fantastic. Great answer. Thank
you for that. You know, Giles, while we still have you here, I actually changed your name down below. I don't know if you noticed that, but it says Yoda Man now. So I'll just call you Yoda Man. Before we break, I know that you're not prepared to do this, and you mentioned it earlier, but just give us a little bit of that comic bit that you used to do with Fonzie, Miss Piggy, and Yoda. Just give 30 seconds or a minute.
I don't know if I can do Fonzie, but call me. There you go. That's it.
Okay. We'll take it. That was great. That was great.
Fantastic. Well, Giles, thank you very much for participating. A unique experience or a unique angle, and insight into Yoda and the English version of collecting. I really enjoyed it, and you have a great collection. Again, I thank you very much for working and participating with us.
Thank you, chaps. It's been great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And before we break, I'll just remind everyone out there watching this interview, if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and like this video. Obviously, there's something that you like about this. Make a comment down below. If you have any questions for Jim, or for Yoda Man here, leave a comment. We'll be sure to check them, and we'll answer all the comments or questions that you have. Lastly, if you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We have a ton of interviews with different collectors out there, all with a bunch of different information. Subscribe to the channel. You can binge watch all of our episodes. But with that, I'll say goodnight now. Jim, any last thing to say here before we break?
Nothing, but again, thank you very much, Giles. Appreciate your involvement.
And Giles, I always like to end with, may the force be with you.
And with you, always.